Welcome back to the new guide to train strength in 0.12.4.6. Now there's been a lot of changes to strength, the biggest of which was in the latest hotfix, where strength now levels at 48.75 kilograms. So up until that point, your PMC carrying that much weight will train endurance when it walks. However, when you get over that point, it'll train strength. Now, the primary ways to train strength I'm going to go through are walking when overweight, melee, and grenades. The first method I'm going to go over today is walking. Basically, if you, as a PMC, weigh over 48, we'll say 49 kilograms, you're going to gain strength XP for walking around. Now, the bigger problem is pretty much reaching that weight whilst risking as little as possible, because you don't really want to be training a skill and trying to PvP at the same time. It might work passively, but it's not going to get you there the fastest. So one of the easiest ways I've found out how to do this is to complete Punisher Part 6, get the Epsilon container, and stick a tank battery in there. Tank batteries weigh around 41 kilograms. The container itself weighs about 1 kilogram. You end up at about 41.9 kilograms, and that is pretty much, great. You can get the Red Rebel crowbar, not the Red Rebel, just the Freeman crowbar in your scabbard. That can't be taken from you. That's another 1.9 kilograms. That's up to about 43 point something kilograms without, risking a lot of money. Screen is what I was using to get over the weight limit. I was about 50 kilograms here. A few additions I could make for this. I'd change the Vepr Hunter out for a Mosin because it's cheaper and it weighs a bit more. Yeah, you don't really need a lot. If you were to use a basic kit with actual armor and whatnot, you'd well be over the weight. You might even have to tone it down a bit because you'd start taking walking penalties. And so far from what I've tested, the more overweight you are, you don't gain any more points. I ran a run through of 20 minutes at 49 kilograms, and then I did so again at 70. And 70 was massively less because I couldn't walk as far. So I don't think there's any real benefit to having more weight on you than you need. But part of the problem is if you haven't completed Punisher Part 6, which is at the end of the day, it's one of those late game, well, it's more mid game now, but it's still quite far in there if you want to get the hideout done, and it's a bit of a trek. If you have a gamma container, you could fill the gamma container with documents cases filled with maps, but really you're only looking at about 2 to 3 kilograms per documents case, so the best you could get out of the gamma container would potentially be, I suppose you might be able to put an empty fuel can in there, which is about 6. I think it's either 6 or 8. I think it's my 8.3 actually. So 8.3 with one of those, you could get to 10, which isn't bad. Put that in your gamma container, and then just run normal raids. You'd be fine. That would work as well. But yeah, the problem is when you've got a smaller container, you can't put as much in it. Now, the other method I would suggest is getting a backpack, probably a Pilgrim, because it's the biggest and the cheapest. You can get a Pilgrim for about 35k. Then fill it with empty fuel containers, which are on the market for about 3 grand, 4 grand. You would lose these every time you die with them, but people probably wouldn't loot them, so if you insured them, 9 times out of 10 you'd get them back. So that's another method for those who don't possess an Epsilon or can't get enough weight in the Alpha container to start with. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend for those people. Getting a Pilgrim backpack, fill it to the brim with empty fuel containers, and just walk around the map with that. Now, it doesn't really matter which map you choose. I would just advise picking the map you're most comfortable with, because more often than not, being more comfortable with the map will end up with you dying less. And I would expect to die, because at the end of the day, you're going to be overweight, you're going to have a stamina penalty, and I feel when you're trying to do another objective inside a raid, right, be it a task, be it training a skill, you're always at a disadvantage to someone who's coming into purely PvP. That's just my way of thinking about it. So I would go in with the mindset of you doing these raids to get, the skill, and any amount of skill gain inside a raid is a win. When I did this method in an offline mode, I ran around the raid for about 20 minutes at 49 kilograms. I did it twice, mainly because I wanted to record the footage for the second time round. So I think I get a little bit more on this run through. But I ended up getting about 3.3 points of strength experience. And I didn't seem to be getting any penalties either. I didn't get the red down arrow that usually indicates that you're getting penalised for strength gain. So at that level, it's going to take you around 15 to 20 raids to get to level 3 in strength. Next method is going to be melee, which I think is probably a bit faster than walking. However, you are going to get a massive loss to your survival rating. So if you don't care about your survival rating, and any of that and any of those statistics, you can do this completely fine. There's no issue with it. Basically, every hit with melee, you gain 0.1 skill and strength. So I'm going to show you the video here. I just ran into an offline mode and started beating on a scav. Just for reference, these are on the easy and low density offline mode settings, just so I could get the footage and see actually how viable it would be. If you did this in an online game, it would be much more difficult, and it would be much slower gains for that reason alone. But if you had a friend, you could potentially beat on each other. That would be perfectly viable. A lot of players I know are solo, so I like to provide methods which don't require two people. This is quite a fast method. As you can see, by the time when I get to the end, I show you the actual strength gain. I do end up hitting the diminishing returns. So basically, whenever you gain a skill too fast or within too short of a time period, you start getting diminishing returns where it gets to a point where you get like 90% of the original gain. So for example, if I was to get to the maximum amount of diminishing returns on this and keep hitting them, I'd get like 0.01 strength XP, which I'm not even sure I can calculate that, but so you can see, because he's got a longer Mosin, I can just stand in front of him and he can't actually shoot me because his gun is pointing in a different direction. So if you did that against someone with a shotgun or anyone that has a longer weapon as a scav, it works. My advice would be maybe take like a level 2 armor or a level 3 one if it's not too expensive. That way it saves you from a few shots, you know what I mean? And try and disperse, if you do happen to get someone in this situation, disperse how you're hitting them. So like go leg, arm, other arm, you know what I mean? So you're not going to black the limb and completely just wipe it out. Yeah, you can see here I've gained around, I think it was around 3 or 4 points. This next method is going to be the fastest but most expensive method of training it, and that's using grenades. Grenades will always provide 0.2 experience for the first grenade thrown, and then 0.1 for every single one after that. So you could theoretically take a load into a raid and come out with a massive amount of strength experience. The only issue is this is the easiest and fastest way to hit the diminishing returns. So you would have to, it would take you a while anyway to go into the raid and wait for that to come back up. Like wait for it to come off cooldown to actually throw the grenades again. So what I'd advise with this is always throw like 1 or 2 at the start of the raid, and then wait until the next raid whilst training it through a different method. Here's the grenades I would recommend. Either the flashbang, which is around 8,000 rubles, but you can only buy a maximum of 10 per reset from Prapor. So it's, you can't really maximize on that. I'd buy the 10, throw the 10, buy some more 10. I wouldn't try and buy it all in one lump sum and knock it out. Same with the smoke grenades. However, I would recommend the smoke grenades over the flashbang, not only because they're cheaper, but you're not giving away your position at the start of the raid so fast. Because the smoke grenade doesn't make the any loud noises, it just sort of fizzles. So visually, yeah, people know where you are, but sound-wise, you won't really give it away, and a lot of people wear contacts, so that's what I recommend. I think leveling this method isn't viable really anymore with the diminishing returns in play, but I think it can supplement the other methods. So for example, if you went into the melee method, you could throw it, you could throw a flashbang, go and do the melee, you could throw the smoke, go and do the melee, walk in, throw two at the start, get that 0.3 points at the start of your raid, and it just takes it way down. The prices here are based on buying them from the traders, and they're a little less. I think it's like 5,300 and 8,400. So don't quote those prices accurately, it's just a rough estimation of how much it would cost if you just solely bought grenades. In the end, what I'd recommend is trying the two methods. Try walking whilst throwing grenades at the start of the map, at the start of the match. See how much you come out with, and try doing the melee method, also throwing grenades at the start of the match. That way you're less likely to hit the diminishing returns, and you can also see which one works best for you. You'll have some players that will get a lot amount of experience from doing the melee method because they like the fast-paced gameplay of Factory. That will work for them, whilst others will prefer put on a stream, just amble about in woods with a full backpack. Now this little run at the end here was me doing the melee method whilst overweight, and in the end I came out with around 4.4 points of strength experience, which was the most I'd gotten any given offline mode raid. I wouldn't say it's reproducible online because it's not. You have other players online and in the raids, but it shows that melee whilst overweight is still viable as well. So if you wanted to combine those two methods, you could potentially make quite a bit of gains in strength in a short amount of time. That's it for me. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you.